the whole town will see the truth. Your reputation, it's already on fire.
Marriage is like blackjack. House always wins, unless you're the dealer. And after 15 years with Cassie, I was starting to think she'd been counting cards this whole time. My name's Jack Russell, and no, the irony of sharing a name with a yappy little dog isn't lost on me. Especially considering what my wife just told me over breakfast at this overpriced seaside resort she insisted we needed for one last shot at romance. It's my dream, Jack. Cassie stirred her mimosa with a manicured finger, not meeting my eyes. I'll only cheat once. It won't affect us. The words hit me like a sucker punch to the gut. I set down my coffee cup carefully, the way you handle live ammunition. Come again? You heard me. She finally looked up, blue eyes defiant. I've been thinking about this for months. Tommy Costa, the trainer for my gym, he's interested and I wanted to explore that. Tommy Costa, 25 years old, all abs and hair gel, the kind of guy who takes selfies at the gym and calls it motivation. I'd seen him around town, hitting on anything with a pulse and a credit card. So you're asking for my permission to screw some muscle-bound kid? My voice came out flat, emotionless. It's a trick I learned in the Army. When the world's exploding around you, you stay calm. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you my intention. She flipped her blonde hair, a gesture that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made me nauseous. One night, that's all, then we can move forward. The breakfast crowd around us continued their cheerful vacation chatter, oblivious to the nuclear bomb going off at table 12. I watched a seagull snatch a piece of toast from the next table and wondered if birds ever felt this kind of betrayal. Let me get this straight, I said, leaning back in my chair. You want to cheat on me? You're telling me about it in advance and somehow this is supposed to help our marriage? It's about honesty, Jack. Complete transparency. Transparency. I tasted the word like spoiled milk. Right, and what if I said no? Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. You won't. You're too practical, too safe. There it was. The word she'd been dancing around for months. Safe Jack, with his steady job doing security consulting for Atlantic Paradise Casino. Safe Jack, who paid the mortgage on time and never forgot to take out the trash. Safe Jack, who apparently bored his wife so much she needed to test drive a younger model. When? I asked. Tonight, I already texted him. He's staying 2 floors up. Of course she was. Cassie Russell, real estate agent extraordinaire, always had her deals lined up before the negotiation started. I'd learned that the hard way when she convinced me to buy our house in Millfield Heights, overpriced suburban paradise where everyone smiled too much and gossiped like it was an Olympic sport. Well then, I stood up, tossing my napkin on the table. Enjoy your dream. I walked away before she could respond, my mind already working. 15 years of marriage, and she thought she knew me. Thought I was predictable. Safe. She was about to learn just how wrong she could be. The Ocean View Resort was the kind of place that charged $30 for a club sandwich and called it artisanal. I'd argued against coming here, but Cassie insisted we needed somewhere special for our anniversary weekend. Now I knew why she'd been so specific about the dates, so insistent on this particular hotel. I found a spot in the lobby where I could watch the elevators without being obvious about it. 20 years of military and security work teaches you how to blend into the background. At 6:15, Cassie emerged from the elevator wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Red, short, expensive. She looked around nervously, then headed for the bar. Tommy was already there, predictably positioned, where everyone could admire his profile. He stood when he saw her, all white teeth and practiced charm. They embraced a little too long, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. I pulled out my phone and started recording. They had 3 drinks. Cassie laughed at everything he said, touching his arm, leaning in close. Tommy played his part perfectly, the young stud, confident and aggressive. When his hand moved to her thigh, she didn't pull away. At 7:30, they headed for the elevators. I gave them 5 minutes, then followed. The hallway on the 8th floor was empty except for a housekeeping cart. I found Tommy's room, 812, and pressed my ear to the door. The sounds from inside made my stomach turn, but I stayed put. Evidence was evidence. While I waited, I pulled out my phone and did something Cassie would never expect from safe, predictable Jack. I accessed our joint checking account and transferred everything to my personal account. Every penny. Then I canceled her credit cards. Let's see how she planned to pay for her dream now. An hour later, I was back in our room when she returned. Her hair was messed up, lipstick gone, that satisfied glow that used to be mine alone. "How was it?" I asked from the chair by the window. She startled, clearly not expecting me to be awake. How was your dream, Cassie?" She straightened, defiance replacing surprise. "It was exactly what I needed." "Good. I'm glad one of us got what they needed tonight." She frowned, something in my tone finally penetrating her post-affair haze. "What's that supposed to mean?" I held up my phone, showing her the banking app. "Check your purse." The color drained from her face as she fumbled for her wallet. "Jack, what did you do?" "I made a withdrawal. Seems fair, since you made a deposit." "You can't do this. How am I supposed to get home?" I stood up, walked to the dresser, and picked up the car keys. "That's your problem now. You made your choice. Live with it." "You're being ridiculous. It was just closeness." "Just closeness?" I nodded slowly. "Right, well, this is just consequences." I headed for the door, then stopped. "Oh, and Cassie? Tommy might want to check his wallet. Room service is expensive here, and I doubt he's got the cash to cover both of you." The last thing I heard as the door closed was her screaming my name. But I was already thinking ahead, planning my next move. Cassie thought she was playing checkers. She was about to discover I'd been playing chess all along. The drive home from the coast gave me 4 hours to think, and by the time I pulled into our driveway in Millfield Heights, I had a plan. Our house, a colonial with white shutters that Cassie had fallen in love with, looked exactly the same, but everything had changed. I was seeing it through different eyes now. Inside, I fed our goldfish, Napoleon and Josephine, names Cassie had chosen during happier times, and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon. The silence felt different now. Not lonely, just empty of lies. My phone buzzed. A text from Cassie. "Jack, please, we need to talk. I'm stranded." I deleted it without responding. The second text came an hour later. "This is insane. I'm your wife." Delete. The third, "Tommy won't answer his phone. I have no money." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the sound of her laughing at his jokes, the way she'd touched his arm, and the sympathy evaporated. Monday morning, I called Joey Brennan. We'd served together in the Middle East, and now he ran a small private investigation business out of a strip mall office between a nail salon and a Chinese restaurant. If you needed to know something in this town, Joey could find it. "Jackie boy," his voice boomed through the phone. "How's married life treating you?" "Like a rented mule, I need a favor." "Name it." "I need everything you can find on a guy named Tommy Costa. 25, personal trainer, works out of Flex Fitness on Harbor Road." And I mean everything. There was a pause. "This about Cassie?" Joey always was too smart for his own good. "What makes you say that?" "Because you sound like you did right before we raided that compound in Kandahar. Cold and pissed off." "What did she do?" I told him. All of it. When I finished, Joey whistled low. "Jesus, Jack. She actually asked permission? Didn't ask, informed. Same difference. Okay, give me 48 hours. And Jack, whatever you're planning, make sure it's legal. Scout's honor. You were never a Boy Scout." "Exactly." Tuesday afternoon, Cassie finally made it home. I heard her key in the lock while I was in my home office, updating security protocols for the casino. She'd probably had to call her sister in Philadelphia for bus fare. "Jack!" Her voice echoed through the house. "We need to talk." I saved my work and went downstairs. She was standing in the foyer, still wearing that red dress, but now it was wrinkled and she looked like she'd slept in it, which she probably had. "Nice trip?" I asked. "Don't." She held up a hand. "Just don't. What you did was cruel and childish. What I did was react to my wife telling me she was going to sleep with another man. Seems pretty reasonable to me. It was one night, Jack. One night to get it out of my system. And how did that work out for you?" Her face flushed. "You humiliated me. Do you know what I had to do to get home? I assume you called someone who cares about you. How'd that go?" The flush deepened. Apparently her support network wasn't as solid as she'd thought. "This is our home, Jack, our life. You can't just... Actually, I can." I pulled out the divorce papers I'd had drawn up that morning. "I'm filing for divorce, Cassie. Adultery is still grounds in this state." She stared at the papers like they were written in hieroglyphics. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious. You wanted your dream?" Congratulations, now I get mine. What about Sophie? Our 11-year-old daughter was at my mother's house for the week, supposedly, and to give us time for our romantic getaway. What about her? She'll be fine. Kids are resilient. You're destroying our family over one mistake. I'm not destroying anything. You already did that. I headed back toward my office. Your stuff will be in boxes by Friday. I'd suggest you find somewhere else to stay. Jack, wait, she grabbed my arm. Please, can't we work through this? I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face. For a second, I saw the woman I'd married, young, ambitious, full of dreams we'd planned to chase together. Then I remembered Tommy Costa's hands on her thighs. You said it was your dream, Cassie. Well, this is mine. Wednesday morning brought Joey's preliminary report and a cup of coffee that tasted like victory. Your boy Tommy's got quite the operation going, Joey said, sliding a manila folder across my kitchen table. 3 different women he's training, all of them north of 50, all of them loaded. Divorced socialites, looking to get back in shape and feel young again. I flipped through the photographs. Tommy at expensive restaurants with different women, Tommy shopping with them, letting them buy him clothes, Tommy being very, very friendly. He's running a hustle. I said, classic gigolo setup. These ladies think they're his only client, but he's playing all of them. Your wife was just another mark. Any of this illegal? Not technically, morally questionable, sure, but not criminal. Guy's got a right to be a scumbag. What about the women? They know about each other? Joey grinned. Not yet, but that could change. What do you mean? Well, hypothetically speaking, if someone were to create a fake social media account and start posting pictures of Tommy with all his clients, that might cause some drama. I studied the photos again. Tommy with his arm around a silver-haired woman in diamonds. Tommy kissing a redhead by a swimming pool. Tommy and Cassie at the hotel bar. Hypothetically, I said, hypothetically. That evening, I created a Facebook account under the name Millfield Truth. The profile picture was a stock photo of scales of justice. The first post was simple. Tommy Costa, personal trainer or professional player? You decide. Then I uploaded the photos. Within 2 hours, the post had been shared 47 times. By Thursday morning, it was all over Millfield Heights social media. The comments were brutal and hilarious. OMG, is that Mrs. Whitman from the country club? I knew there was something sleazy about that guy. Poor Cassie Russell. So embarrassing. My phone rang at 10 a.m. Unknown number. Jack Russell? The voice was young, male, and pissed off. Speaking. This is Tommy Costa. We need to talk. I don't think we do. You posted those pictures. I know it was you. I don't know what you're talking about. Meet me at Flex Fitness in an hour, or I'm coming to your house. I almost laughed. Tommy, let me explain something to you. I spent 8 years in the Army and 12 years in security. You spent your 20s taking selfies and hitting on married women. If you want to make this physical, bring a lunch. It's going to take a while. There was a pause. Just take down the post, okay? This is ruining my business. Your business was ruining my marriage. Seems fair. I hung up and immediately called Joey. How do you feel about a little field trip? Flex Fitness was one of those chrome and mirrors gyms where people went to be seen working out. Tommy was waiting for us by the front desk, and he looked like heck. His usual perfect hair was disheveled, and there were bags under his eyes. You, Jack? He tried to look intimidating, but it's hard to be threatening when you're wearing a tank top that says Beast Mode. That's me. This is my associate, Joey. Joey nodded. At 6'4" and built like a refrigerator, he had a way of making people reconsider their life choices. Look, Tommy said, I don't know what Cassie told you, but she told me she was going to sleep with you. Then she did. Pretty straightforward. It was just one night, man. She came on to me. I'm sure she did. Just like Mrs. Whitman came on to you. And Mrs. Chen and that redhead from the photos. His face went pale. That's different. How so? Those are business relationships. Right. You're in the business of screwing lonely women for money. At least call it what it is. Tommy's hands clenched into fists. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're a con artist with good abs. The only difference between you and a street corner hustler is the thread count on your workout gear. Screw you, old man. That's when Joey stepped forward. Did this little boy just disrespect you, Jack? I believe he did. Should I be offended on your behalf? That's very thoughtful of you. Tommy looked back and forth between us, finally realizing he was outclassed. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my wife. I want you to leave town. And I want you to think very carefully about your career choices. And if I don't, I smiled, then Joey and I will have to get creative. And trust me, you don't want to see us get creative. We left him standing there, looking like a deflated balloon. In the parking lot, Joey was grinning. That was fun. What's next? Now we wait and see how creative we need to get. I didn't have to wait long. That night, someone slashed Tommy's tires and spray painted Gigolo across his windshield. I had no idea who might have done such a thing, but I slept better than I had in months. By Friday, Millfield Heights was buzzing like a kicked hornet's nest. The Millfield Truth Facebook page had grown to over 800 followers, and the Tommy Costa scandal was the hottest gossip since Mayor Peterson got caught with his secretary at the Christmas party. Cassie had moved in with her friend Mia temporarily, an arrangement that I knew wouldn't last long. Mia Hendricks was the kind of woman who loved other people's drama right up until it started affecting her own life. She lived in a pristine townhouse and worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, which meant she traveled constantly and gossiped professionally. I was updating security protocols at the casino when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. A friend. The email contained a link to a private Instagram account, Tommy's account. Apparently, though it was locked down tighter than Fort Knox now, but someone had screenshots, lots of them. Tommy at expensive restaurants, Tommy on a yacht with Mrs. Whitman, Tommy in what looked like Mrs. Chen's bedroom, shirtless and grinning. And the piece de resistance, a video of Tommy at some kind of party, drunk and bragging about his client list and how easy it was to manage lonely housewives. I forwarded the email to Joey with a note. Christmas came early. His response was immediate. This is beautiful. Your mysterious friend has good taste. I had my suspicions about who the friend might be. Mia had access to Cassie's phone, and she was exactly the type to dig through someone's social media when she got bored. She was also smart enough to realize that being associated with a cheating scandal wasn't great for her reputation. That afternoon, I got a call from Detective Ray Riley. We'd known each other for years. I'd done some consulting work for the department, and he occasionally sent private security business my way. Jack, I need to ask you about Tommy Costa. What about him? Someone trashed his car pretty thoroughly last night. Tires, paint job, the works. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Ray, I was home all evening. Check my security system if you want. I'm not saying you did it personally. I'm saying maybe you know who might have. Tommy Costa is a con artist who preys on vulnerable women. I imagine he's made quite a few enemies recently. There was a pause. Jack, I get it. Guy screwed your wife, and that's got to hurt. But if this escalates, it won't escalate. At least not from my end. Good, because between you and me, the guy's getting what he deserves. But I still have to investigate. Of course. Let me know if I can help. After I hung up, I realized I was smiling. Even the cops thought Tommy was a scumbag. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was in the garage, organizing tools and enjoying the peace, when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the window, I saw a silver BMW that I didn't recognize. The woman who got out was maybe 60, well-dressed, with the kind of confidence that comes from having serious money. She walked up to my front door like she owned the place. I answered before she could knock. Mr. Russell, I'm Madeline Whitman. I believe we have a mutual acquaintance, Mrs. Whitman, the silver-haired woman from Joey's photos. Up close, she was more impressive than I'd expected. Sharp eyes, expensive clothes, and the bearing of someone used to getting her way. Please, come in. She settled into my living room like she was holding court, accepting the coffee I offered with a gracious nod. I wanted to thank you, she said without preamble. For what? For opening my eyes. I saw your Facebook post about Tommy, very enlightening. I'm sorry if it was embarrassing. She laughed, a sound like silver bells with an edge. Embarrassing? Mr. Russell, I'm 62 years old and worth about $40 million. I've been embarrassed by experts. What Tommy did was amateur hour. I liked her immediately. The thing is, she continued, I don't like being made a fool of. And I especially don't like young men who think they can manipulate me because I'm a lonely widow. What can I do for you, Mrs. Whitman? I want to help you destroy him. Over the next hour, she laid out a plan that was both elegant and ruthless. Mrs. Whitman had connections throughout the city's social scene, and she knew exactly how to make Tommy's life miserable without breaking any laws. The key, she explained, is to make him unemployable. Tommy's entire business model depends on his reputation and his looks. Take those away, and he's just another broke pretty boy. She'd already started the process. A few phone calls to the right people, and suddenly Tommy couldn't get a job at any upscale gym in the city. His clients had all dropped him after seeing the Facebook posts. His apartment lease was up for renewal next month, and his landlord, a friend of Mrs. Whitman's, wasn't planning to offer him a new one. What about Cassie? I asked. What about her? She was just another mark to him. Although, she paused, studying me. I get the impression you have your own plans for your wife. I might. Good. She enabled him, whether she realized it or not. Actions have consequences. That evening, I was cooking dinner when Cassie showed up. She let herself in with her key, something I'd have to address soon, and found me in the kitchen. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Jack, this has gone far enough. The whole town is talking about us. They're talking about you and Tommy. I'm just the wronged husband getting sympathy casseroles from the neighbors. She flinched. It was a mistake. One night. Can't you forgive me? I set down my spatula and turned to face her. Cassie, let me ask you something. If I had come to you and said I wanted to sleep with another woman just once to get it out of my system, how would you have reacted? That's different. How? Because you're not that type of person. What type of person am I? She struggled for words. You're steady, reliable. You don't do things like that. Right, I'm safe, boring, predictable. I nodded slowly. Well, congratulations. You've managed to make me into something else entirely. What's that supposed to mean? It means you picked the wrong husband to betray. You want to see what the new Jack Russell looks like? Stick around. It's going to be educational. She left without another word, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Good. She was finally starting to understand that she didn't know me as well as she thought. Sunday brought news that Tommy had been arrested. Nothing serious, just a bar fight that got out of hand, but it made the local paper. The article mentioned his recent social media controversy and included a photo that made him look like a common thug. Joey called that afternoon laughing. Did you see the paper? I saw it. Guy can't catch a break, almost makes you feel sorry for him. Almost. So what's next? I looked out the window at the house where I'd lived for 8 years, where I'd planned to grow old with a woman who thought I was too boring to keep her interested. Next, we get creative. That night, I sat in my home office and planned the next phase. Cassie thought she knew me, thought she could predict my moves. Tommy thought he was dealing with some suburban pushover who'd roll over and take it. They were both about to learn just how wrong they could be. Monday morning brought a phone call that changed everything. I was at the casino, reviewing weekend security footage, when my cell phone rang. The caller ID showed my lawyer's office. Jack, we have a problem, said Patricia Vance, the best divorce attorney in 3 counties. Cassie's fighting the adultery claim. On what grounds? She's claiming you gave her permission. Says she has witnesses who heard you agree to an open marriage arrangement. I almost laughed. That's creative. It's also potentially effective. If she can prove you consented, even reluctantly, it changes the entire dynamic of the case. What kind of witnesses? Her friend Mia, for one. Apparently, Cassie told her you'd agreed to let her explore her options as long as she was honest about it. Mia. I should have seen that coming. Cassie's best friend and enabler. The woman who'd probably encouraged the whole thing in the first place. What do you need from me? Evidence. Anything that shows her real intent, her planning, her deception. Right now, it's your word against hers, and she's spinning this as a mutual decision that you're now regretting. After I hung up, I sat in my office staring at the casino security monitors. Dozens of cameras capturing every angle, every moment, every lie people told themselves about their chances. I'd spent years watching people make bad bets and then blame everyone but themselves when they lost. It was time to show Cassie what a real gamble looked like. I called Joey. I need you to dig deeper into Mia Hendricks. Cassie's friend. What am I looking for? Everything. Financial records, employment history, personal relationships, and Joey? I need it fast. How fast? 24 hours? That's going to cost extra. Bill me. That afternoon, I had an unexpected encounter at the grocery store. I was in the cereal aisle when I heard familiar voices from the next row over, Cassie and Mia, talking in low tones. And told you this was a bad idea, Mia was saying. It was your idea. Cassie's voice was sharp with stress. You said I needed to reclaim my confidence and explore my options. I didn't tell you to announce it to Jack beforehand, like some kind of manifesto. I moved closer to the end of the aisle, staying out of sight. The lawyer says we can make this work, Cassie continued. If you testify that Jack agreed to it, I'm not comfortable lying under oath, Cassie. You're not lying. I told you he agreed, and you believed me. That's not perjury, it's just interpretation. There was a pause. Then Mia's voice, colder now. This is getting out of hand. The whole town is talking about it. My boss asked me about it yesterday. This is affecting my reputation too. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe you should just settle and move on. Cut your losses. Easy for you to say. You're not the one losing everything. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Look, Mia said, I love you like a sister, but this whole thing was insane from the beginning. You don't tell your husband you're going to cheat on him and expect it to go well. You said, I said a lot of things. I was drunk and I was going through my own divorce drama. That doesn't mean it was good advice. So you're abandoning me? I'm being realistic. Jack's not the pushover you thought he was. He's systematically destroying Tommy's life, and now he's coming for you. Maybe it's time to wave the white flag. Their voices were moving away. I waited until I was sure they were gone, then checked my recording. Clear as a bell. Mia admitting the whole thing was insane and that she'd given bad advice while drunk. Patricia was going to love this. Tuesday brought Joey's report on Mia, and it was even better than I'd hoped. Miss Perfect pharmaceutical rep had some interesting secrets. She's been skimming from her expense account, Joey explained over coffee. Nothing huge, but consistent. Fake client dinners, inflated hotel costs, mileage fraud. I'd estimate about $15,000 over the past 2 years. Enough to get her fired, enough to get her prosecuted. Her company takes this stuff seriously. What else? She's been having an affair with her married boss, guy named Richard Hoffman, VP of sales. I've got photos of them at hotels, restaurants, the whole 9 yards. I studied the photographs. Mia and a silver-haired man in expensive suits, looking very cozy at various locations around the state. His wife, no. Not yet, but she's got a good lawyer and a prenup that doesn't favor cheating spouses. Interesting. Anything else? One more thing. Remember how Mia's been pushing Cassie to fight the divorce? Turns out she's got a financial interest in the outcome. How so? Cassie borrowed money from her. $25,000 to be exact. If Cassie gets a good settlement, Mia gets paid back. If Cassie gets nothing, Mia's out $25,000. I lean back in my chair. So she's not just being a supportive friend. She's protecting her investment. Exactly. And here's the beautiful part. The loan isn't documented anywhere. No contracts, no promissory notes, nothing. Just cash changing hands. Which means the IRS doesn't know about it. $25,000 in unreported income, plus the expense account fraud, plus the adultery evidence. Mia's got a lot to lose if the wrong information gets to the wrong people. That evening, I invited Mia to coffee. She agreed, probably thinking she could convince me to go easy on Cassie. We met at a little cafe downtown, the kind of place where suburban wives went to feel sophisticated. Jack, I'm glad you called, she said, settling into her chair with a latte that probably cost more than most people spent on lunch. We need to clear the air. I agree. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. Cassie made a mistake, but destroying her life isn't going to fix your marriage. My marriage is already destroyed, Mia. The question now is how much collateral damage there's going to be. She frowned. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and played the grocery store recording. Her face went white as she heard her own voice admitting the whole thing was insane, and that she'd given bad advice while drunk. That's taken out of context, she stammered. Is it? Because it sounds like you're admitting you encouraged my wife to cheat on me while you were intoxicated, and now you're planning to lie under oath to protect your investment. My investment? I slid Joey's financial report across the table. $25,000, Mia. That's a lot of money to lose over a friend's bad decision. She stared at the papers, her hands shaking slightly. How did you? I'm very good at finding things out. For instance, I know about Richard Hoffman. I know about the expense account fraud. I know about a lot of things that I'm sure you'd prefer stayed private. What do you want? I want you to tell the truth in court under oath. I want you to admit that you encouraged Cassie to have an affair, that I never agreed to any kind of open marriage, and that you're only supporting her now because she owes you money. And if I don't, then Richard's wife gets some very interesting photographs. The IRS gets a detailed report about your unreported income and fraudulent expense claims. And your boss gets evidence that his VP of sales is embezzling company funds. She sat in silence for a long moment, staring at her latte like it held the answers to all her problems. "You're not the man I thought you were," she finally said. "No, I'm not." Neither was Tommy. Neither's your friend Cassie. Funny how people reveal their true selves when the stakes get high enough. "This will destroy me, only if you keep lying. Tell the truth and all of this stays private. Keep protecting Cassie's fantasy, and everyone learns what kind of person you really are." She left without another word, but I could see the defeat in her shoulders. By tomorrow, Cassie would know her star witness had flipped. That night, I sat on my back deck with a bourbon and watched the sunset. In the distance, I could hear kids playing in their yards, dogs barking, the normal sounds of suburban life continuing despite the drama. My phone buzzed with a text from Cassie. "Mia told me what you did. This isn't over." I typed back, "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." The game was almost over, and I was holding all the cards. Cassie had made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed I'd play by the old rules, be the same predictable man she'd married. But that man was gone. In his place was someone who understood that sometimes, when people show you who they really are, the only appropriate response is to show them who you can become. Wednesday morning brought the call I'd been expecting. Cassie's lawyer wanted to meet. Robert Chen, no relation to Tommy's former client, was one of those attorneys who specialized in high-conflict divorces. He had a reputation for being ruthless, expensive, and very good at his job. The fact that Cassie could afford him told me she was more desperate than I'd realized. We met at his downtown office, a gleaming tower that screamed success and billable hours. Chen was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of confidence that came from winning cases other lawyers wouldn't touch. "Mr. Russell, thank you for coming. I'll be direct. My client is willing to negotiate." "I'm listening." Mrs. Russell acknowledges that her indiscretion has complicated matters. She's prepared to accept a modest settlement in exchange for joint custody and a quick resolution. I almost laughed. "Modest settlement? Your client committed adultery, planned it in advance, and then tried to lie about it in court. What exactly does she think she's entitled to? The house, her car, half the retirement accounts, and spousal support for 2 years. Counteroffer. She gets her clothes, her car, and nothing else." Chen's smile never wavered. "That's not realistic, Mr. Russell. Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state. Even with the adultery, she's entitled to what the judge decides she's entitled to. And when that judge hears the recording of her, admitting this was all planned, sees the evidence of her deception, and learns that her star witness was lying to protect a $25,000 loan, I think we'll find out exactly how much adultery is worth these days." The smile flickered. "What recording?" I played him 30 seconds of Cassie and Mia's grocery store conversation. Chen's expression went from confident to concerned to carefully neutral. "That was recorded without consent. In a public place where there was no reasonable expectation of privacy. Perfectly legal. Mr. Russell, perhaps you should advise your client to take my offer, because it's only going to get worse from here." I left him sitting in his expensive office, probably calculating how much of his retainer he'd have to refund when Cassie realized she couldn't afford to fight this. That afternoon brought an unexpected visitor to the casino. I was in my office when security called to tell me Tommy Costa was in the lobby, asking to see me. "Send him up," I said, "but keep an eye on the cameras." Tommy looked like heck. His usual perfect appearance was gone. Wrinkled clothes, unshaven face, the hollow look of a man whose world had collapsed. He sat across from my desk like a defendant waiting for sentencing. "I want to make a deal," he said without preamble. "I'm listening. I'll leave town permanently. I'll sign whatever you want, saying I'll never contact Cassie again. Just call off the dogs." "What dogs?" "Don't play dumb. Someone's been sabotaging everything I try to do. I can't get a job, can't get an apartment, can't even get a date without someone showing up with those awful photos." I leaned back in my chair. "Tommy, I think you're overestimating my influence. Maybe you're just experiencing the natural consequences of your lifestyle choices. I'm broke, okay? I've got nothing left. My car's been vandalized 3 times. Someone put dog crap in my gym bag. Yesterday, I went to a job interview, and the manager already had printouts of your Facebook posts. Sounds rough. I know it was you or your friends. Just tell me what you want. I studied him for a moment. A month ago, this man had been confident enough to seduce my wife and arrogant enough to think there wouldn't be consequences. Now he looked like a beaten dog. I want you to understand something, Tommy. You didn't just sleep with my wife. You participated in the destruction of my family. My 11-year-old daughter is going to grow up in a broken home because you couldn't keep your hands off a married woman. She came on to me. I don't care. You made a choice. Actions have consequences. So what happens now? I pulled out a piece of paper and slid it across the desk. You sign this. It's a sworn statement admitting that you pursued Cassie, that you knew she was married, and that she never told you I had agreed to any kind of arrangement. He read it quickly. If I sign this, you'll leave me alone. I'll stop actively destroying your life. What happens after that depends on how well you stay out of mine. He signed without another word. That evening, I was grilling dinner when Cassie showed up. She didn't bother knocking, just walked into my backyard like she still lived there. You got to Tommy, she said. Did I? He called me. Said he was leaving town, that it was over between us. Smart man. Smarter than I gave him credit for. She sat down at the patio table uninvited. This has to stop, Jack. The whole town is talking about us. Sophie's going to hear about it at school. Sophie's going to hear that her mother cheated on her father. That's the truth. Would you prefer she hear a lie? I want to come home. The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, I saw a flash of the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, uncertain, maybe even sorry. Then I remembered her laughing at Tommy's jokes, remembered the sound of her voice when she told me about her dream. Jack, please, I made a mistake. One mistake. Don't throw away 15 years over one night. You didn't make a mistake, Cassie. You made a choice. You planned it, you executed it, and the only thing you regret is getting caught. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me something. If I hadn't found out, if Tommy had kept his mouth shut and you'd gotten away with it, would you have stopped at one night? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. That's what I thought. I went back to my grilling, and after a few minutes, I heard her car start up and drive away. Friday brought the final pieces falling into place. Mia had called Patricia and agreed to testify truthfully. Tommy's signed statement was filed with the court. Cassie's lawyer had called twice trying to negotiate a better settlement. I was finishing up at the casino when Joey called. You need to see this, he said. Meet me at Murphy's. Murphy's was a dive bar downtown where cops and security guys went to drink away the day's frustrations. Joey was waiting in a back booth with a beer and a manila envelope. Remember Mrs. Whitman, he said as I sat down. Hard to forget. Well, she's been busy. Turns out she has friends in some very interesting places. He slid the envelope across the table. Inside were photographs of Tommy at what looked like a high-end party. Expensive clothes, expensive people, expensive everything. That was taken last month, Joey explained. Before your wife's little adventure, Tommy was working another angle, targeting rich widows at charity events, social gatherings, that sort of thing. So look at who else is in the pictures. I flipped through the photos until I found what he was talking about. There, in the background of one shot, was Cassie. She was talking to an older man in an expensive suit, laughing and touching his arm in that familiar way. She was already working the same circuit, I said. Gets better. The guy she's talking to, that's William Morrison. 73 years old, widowed, worth about $20 million. The pieces clicked into place. She wasn't just cheating with Tommy. She was networking. Looks like it. Mrs. Whitman thinks your wife was planning to trade up, divorce you, take half your assets, then marry into real money. I stared at the photograph, seeing my wife's betrayal in a whole new light. It wasn't just about love or excitement or feeling young again. It was about money. It had always been about money. There's more, Joey continued. Morrison's been asking about her. Wants to know if she's really getting divorced, if she's going to be available soon. Jesus. Mrs. Whitman thought you should know what you're really dealing with. I finished my beer in silence, processing this new information. Cassie hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd been planning to destroy it for profit. The affair with Tommy was just the opening move in a longer game. But she'd made one crucial error. She'd assumed I'd react predictably, that I'd be hurt and angry, but ultimately manageable. She'd counted on me being the same safe, boring husband she'd married. She was about to learn just how wrong she could be. Saturday morning, I called William Morrison's office. His secretary was polite but protective. Mr. Morrison didn't take calls from strangers. Tell him Jack Russell called. Tell him it's about Cassie Russell, and I have information he needs to hear. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Mr. Russell, this is William Morrison. I understand you wanted to speak with me about Cassie. I do. Are you familiar with her current situation? I know she's going through a divorce. Unfortunate, but these things happen. Mr. Morrison, I think there are some things about my wife that you should know before you get too involved with her. I told him everything. The planned affair, the lies in court, the financial manipulations, the pattern of deception. When I finished, there was a long silence. You're telling me she orchestrated this entire divorce to position herself as available? I'm telling you my wife is a very calculating woman who sees relationships as business transactions. What you do with that information is up to you. Another pause. Thank you for calling, Mr. Russell. This has been illuminating. That afternoon, Cassie called me screaming. What did you say to William Morrison? I told him the truth. Why? He canceled our dinner tonight, said he'd reconsidered and didn't think we were compatible. That's unfortunate. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to blow up our marriage. You're destroying everything, my reputation, my friendships, my future. I'm not destroying anything, Cassie. I'm just making sure people know who you really are. The line went quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was cold with rage. You think you've won, don't you? You think you're so smart, turning everyone against me. I think I'm protecting myself and our daughter from someone who's proven she can't be trusted. This isn't over, Jack. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really were 15 years ago. I hung up and sat in my kitchen looking around at the house that would soon be mine alone. In a few weeks, the divorce would be final. Cassie would get her car, her clothes, and enough money to start over somewhere else. Sophie would live with me during the school year and visit her mother on holidays. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was honest. No more lies, no more pretending, no more wondering what my wife was really thinking when she smiled at me across the dinner table. My phone buzzed with a text from Joey. Heard Tommy's moving to Florida. Fresh start. I typed back, good for him. Another text, this one from Mrs. Whitman. Heard Morrison dropped your wife like a hot potato. Well done. Thank you for your help. A final text from Patricia. Cassie's lawyer called. They want to accept your original offer. Should I drop the papers? I looked around my kitchen one more time, at the life I'd built with a woman who'd seen it all as a stepping stone to something better. Then I typed my response. Drop the papers. It's time to close this deal. Outside, I could hear kids playing in the neighborhood, dogs barking, lawnmowers running, normal sounds of normal lives. Soon, Sophie and I would have a normal life too. Honest, predictable, safe. And for the first time in months, safe sounded pretty good to me. 3 months later, I was coaching Sophie's soccer team when I saw Cassie across the field. She was thinner than before, her hair different, her clothes less expensive. She waved tentatively, and I nodded back. After the game, she approached me while Sophie was getting snacks with her teammates. She looks good, Cassie said, watching our daughter laugh with her friends. She's doing well. Good grades, lots of friends. Kids are resilient. Jack, She stopped, started again. I wanted to say I'm sorry for all of it. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, for the calculation I'd learned to recognize. Instead, I saw something I hadn't seen in years, genuine remorse. Thank you, I said finally. That means something. I'm working at a real estate office in Harrisburg now. Small firm, but they gave me a chance. I'm trying to rebuild. Good for you. I know I don't have the right to ask, but do you think you'll ever forgive me? I watched Sophie run toward us, grass stains on her uniform and a huge smile on her face. She hugged me first, then her mother, chattering about the game and her friends and the pizza party next week. I already have, I told Cassie. Forgiveness isn't for you, it's for me. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. As they walked away together, Sophie would spend the weekend with her mother. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The game was over. No winners, no losers, just people trying to figure out how to move forward. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything.